Now for the past week, I've been putting the Lenovo Yoga 9i Gen 7 here for 2022 through its paces to see if this is a big improvement over last year's version. And I gotta say, pretty much across the board, a big improvement, and I'm loving what I'm seeing here. And it's been my favorite laptop so far here for 2022. I know it's a little bit early, and I know we have a lot of other laptops coming into the studio, but so far this one has really piqued my interest and caught my attention. Now I have two versions of this laptop. One is the Full HD IPS version that you can actually get today. It's available to order. And I have the 4K OLED option, which is going to be available very soon. We're going to find out in this video which one you should pick. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the brand new Lenovo Yoga 9i here for 2022. Coming up. Now, before we get to the heart of the matter, I just want to let everybody know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Lenovo. I'm not being sponsored by Lenovo. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Lenovo is not getting copy approval. That means you're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, I'm fortunate to have both units, the Full HD IPS model on the left and the one Lenovo sent over on the right that has a 4K OLED display. Now, there's a pretty big price difference between the two. The one on the left comes in at $1,232, and that's available right now over at Lenovo's website. But be warned, that one only has 8 gigabytes of non-upgradable RAM and only 256 gigs of SSD storage. The one on the right should be available in May. That has the 4K OLED display, and that will retail for $1929. And that is a 4K OLED display, 16 gigabytes of non-upgradable RAM, and 1 terabyte of SSD storage. Now, before we get to the design, I already did an unboxing and first look review. For those that didn't see it, I'll leave a link in the description below. And let's start off with the design. One of the biggest changes from the last model is the fact they now go with rounded edges. You don't get those sharp edges, making this a much more comfortable device to hold in your hand. And that's a big win in my book. Now, it's also a very nice looking device. As you can see here, that shiny metal on the sides gives it a really sleek and modern look. I really like the design language here. Now, the two models that I have here today are the Storm Gray finish, but of course you could also get it in what they call Oatmeal. That's a new colorway for this year in 2022. Looks pretty interesting as well. Now, as far as the weight is concerned, the Full HD model comes in at 1.4 kilograms or 3.09 pounds, and the one with the 2.8K or the 4K OLED display, which is the one I have here, that starts at 1.48 kilograms or 3.26 pounds. So you're talking about a very slim and light, ultra portable convertible here, not the lightest we've seen, but definitely portable to take with you on the go. Now, we already checked out the port selection in that unboxing video, but for those that didn't see it, on the left side, I'm happy to report there is a USB-A port, full size. You gotta love it. Next to that are two USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports that are full function. They do data, charge, and display out. Moving over to the right side is your power button, and next to that is a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 port, and next to that is your microphone headphone combo jack to round out the ports on this laptop. And as I mentioned in that last video, no micro SD card reader on this. Kind of a miss in my book. Now, there's a big difference between these two displays, and let's get into it right now because the one on the left has a 14-inch Full HD IPS display that's 1920 by 1200. That's a 16:10 aspect ratio. It's a Dolby Vision display and can get as bright as 400 nits according to Lenovo. The one on the right is the one we already took a look at in my unboxing video. That is an OLED display with a 4K resolution. That's 3840 by 2400, and that, of course, is also a 16:10 aspect ratio, which I'm a big fan of. That's pretty good. Now, these are both 60 hertz displays with no option for higher refresh rate. One of my big negatives taken away from that unboxing and first look review. Kind of wish that they had a 90 hertz or even 120 hertz option. Even to pay more for that, I think that would have been a nice option to give the user. But having said that, the one on the right is also a Dolby Vision display, and it also has the HDR True Black display on this. So if you're going to watch high dynamic range content on that one, that that is a big advantage over the one on the left. That IPS display doesn't have that, and therefore, if you're looking to really enjoy multimedia on this, to consume media, especially in high dynamic range content, you're definitely going to want to get the one on the right. Now, let me preface this before we get into the actual numbers with the fact that these are both excellent displays. But when you delve into the numbers, you're going to see why the one on the right, with its OLED display, with its higher resolution, is a much superior display. You're looking at better color accuracy with a lower delta E score. Remember, anything below 2 is considered color accurate. Both are good, but the one on the right is even better. And it also has better coverage of the color gamut. So if you're a content creator, you're going to choose the one on the right. That is the better one for Photoshop, color grading, Lightroom, and of course, video editing. And both displays are rated at 400 nits. Now, the one on the left, the IPS Full HD display, came in at 389 nits according to my measurements, and the 4K OLED display came in at 397 nits, both very close to the claimed 400 nits. So that's been pretty good. But keep in mind, both are glossy displays. You will notice reflection and glare depending on your lighting conditions. But the bottom line is these are both excellent displays, and if you don't want to spend the extra money, you'll be perfectly fine with that Full HD IPS display. It is excellent in its own right. Now, I already showed you how to get inside this laptop in my unboxing and first look review. For those that didn't see it, again, I'll leave a link in the description below, but it's pretty easy. Just take your time and don't rush. You'll be fine getting inside this laptop. Once you're inside, the one thing you're going to notice right away, and as I mentioned in that video, is the RAM is soldered into the motherboard. So make sure you get enough RAM when you're checking out. Now, the good news is it is LPDDR5 RAM running in dual channel mode. Now, my review unit that was sent by Lenovo has 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM. And the one with the Full HD resolution and the IPS display has 8 gigabytes of RAM. Not quite enough, in my opinion, here in 2022. But for some reason, the performance on that one was actually a little bit better than the one with the more RAM. Very interesting. We're going to get into those numbers in just a little bit. Now, the good news is you can upgrade the SSD. Now, my review unit that was sent over by Lenovo has a 1 terabyte of PCIe NVMe Gen 4 SSD storage. And as you can see from these reads and writes, these are excellent speeds. There is no doubt about it. But the one I picked up with the 256 gigabytes of SSD storage didn't do quite as well. These are respectable numbers, but not nearly as good as the speeds on that 1 terabyte SSD. And as far as the wireless is concerned, they now move to Wi-Fi 6E along with Bluetooth 5.2. Now, this is soldered into the motherboard, meaning you cannot change it down the road, but it is very good. All has worked very well. Okay, let's talk about the performance. And as you can see, this Core i7-1260p definitely did a lot better than last year's model, and especially in the multi-core performance. But you're also seeing a bump in the XE graphics as well, as evidenced by the 3D Mark Firestrike and TimeSpy scores. You definitely see a big improvement there as well. And what's interesting about this chipset, it has 12 cores, 4 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores. And they all work together to give you a much better performance, again, especially in that multi-core performance. And for those wondering, this is a 28-watt CPU. And for those wondering, here are the numbers when you compare it to the Yoga Slim 7 Carbon that I recently reviewed. And I'm going to do a more in-depth head-to-head. That's dropping in the next day or so, so stay tuned. And what was really interesting is the one with the 8 gigabytes of RAM that actually did better in the single core performance than the one with more RAM, with the 16 gigabytes of RAM, scoring 1708 versus 1447. That was very interesting. And it did better on the Cinebench R15, R20, and R23 test. Now, when it comes to gaming, I want to make it very clear, this is not a gaming laptop because it only has integrated Iris Xe graphics. If you want better gaming, of course, invest in something with a discrete graphics card. But having said that, if you lower some of the settings, you can definitely get some playable frame rates on some of the more popular titles. But you always have the option of connecting an external GPU thanks to the 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports that this has. Now, when you're running this under heavy load, I didn't notice the surface temperatures getting overly hot, and that's good if you want to use it on your lap or on a sofa. It's not going to burn your skin, so it's actually remained pretty cool. And that's thanks to the 2 fans that this has internally. And speaking of the fans, when you're running it under the performance mode, you definitely will notice them kick in, and they're not too loud, so that's been pretty good, but they will be noticeable nonetheless. Let's give it a listen. Now, when it comes to the audio, this has quad speakers. And what makes this stand apart from the rest of the laptops we review on this channel is that this has a rotating soundbar, and it worked really well. It has Dolby Atmos, helping with the spatial audio. Now let's compare it to one of my favorite laptops when it comes to audio. I think the best in the business, I don't think there's any debate about that, is the MacBook Pro 16. Now I have the late 2019 edition, and the sound on it has been excellent. Let's compare the two. Now keep in mind, it's not going to be as good as that 16-inch laptop, but for a 14-inch convertible Windows laptop, it is excellent. Let's give them a listen. Now, since this is a 2-in-1 convertible, you can't quite open it with one finger. The hinges are not designed to do that, but you could almost get it open as you see there, but not quite. Okay, let's talk about the keyboard, and I'm really liking this keyboard. It's got nice tactile feedback, good key travel, not too shallow, which has been pretty good, and has been working well for extended periods of typing for the past week that I've been using it. And they have a new dedicated row that allows you to change the thermal profile, allows you to blur the background and the webcam, allows you to change the audio profile, allows you to switch between light and dark mode in the OS, and a fingerprint scanner is located below that. And it has a multi-stage backlight that allows you to get work done in a dark room and a dimly lit environment. It worked okay. And if you want to hear how it sounds in action, let's listen to the typing. And it has a 45% bigger touchpad this time around. It was a precision touchpad that had very responsive two-finger scrolling, and all the gestures worked as expected. Excellent job, Lenovo. And this being a 2-in-1 convertible means you can put it into the different modes. The tent mode was great for recipes in the kitchen, consuming media, watching Netflix, Amazon, and YouTube. And the same could be said of the stand mode, or what other people call as presentation mode. It worked really well. But of course, you could always put it into the tablet mode, great for use with the pen. Now, the pen is included at no additional cost, and it worked really well. Now, the difference between this year's model and last year's model is there's no silo this time around to store it on the laptop, and there's no place magnetically to store it either. A little bit of a miss. But the benefit is you do get a full-size pen this time around, and that is a lot better for taking notes and sketching at artwork. And they do give you a sleeve in every SKU of this laptop, so you don't have to worry about which model you get. That sleeve does have a place to store the pen, so you're not without a solution, and that's been pretty good. And I have to say, it's a pretty good quality carrying sleeve with a nice material on it, pretty durable so far. So we have an improved webcam this time around. They now move to a 1080p webcam, full HD. So if you're going to do your Zoom calls, if you're going to do your work from home needs, this should suffice. In fact, I actually think it's pretty good. What do you think about the audio quality as well with the internal mics? What do you think about the video quality? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, this does have a couple of tricks up its sleeve, one of them being the fact that you can blur the background, as you see here, with a press of a button. That button, of course, is located on that sidebar, and it's actually pretty good, pretty cool feature to have, kind of like it. Let me know what you think about it in that comment section below. And there is a shutter switch, so if you want to turn it off for more security and privacy, you have that option. Okay, let's talk about the battery life, and we now have a bigger 75 watt-hour battery. That's up from the 60 watt-hour battery from the last gen. And as you can see from the results on my continuous web surfing test over Wi-Fi at 150 nits in the battery saving mode, The Yoga 9i with the 4K OLED did 10 hours and 24 minutes, and the Full HD IPS model did 13 hours and 36 minutes. So it's not surprising that the IPS model outpaced the OLED model, which consumes more power, and also obviously burns a lot more power because it has more pixels to push with that 4K resolution. So what does this mean in real world mixed usage? I think if you're going to go with that 4K OLED, you're looking at anywhere from 7 to 8 hours, whereas on the Yoga 9i with that Full HD IPS display, you're looking at anywhere from 9 to 10 hours. So definitely a better battery life result with that Full HD IPS display. But please keep in mind that everybody's use case is a little bit different, so your mileage may vary. Now, if you do need to plug in, the supplied 65-watt USB-C power adapter does support fast charging. Okay, let's wrap it all up. What do I think about the Lenovo Yoga 9i 14 all new here for 2022? And I think Lenovo hit it out of the ballpark with a home run here, ladies and gentlemen. It's that good. I love its fresh new look with its rounded corners, very comfortable to hold. I like that stylish design. I love the fact that it has that gorgeous 14-inch UHD Plus display, OLED display which is absolutely gorgeous. But even if you went with that Full HD IPS display, you won't be disappointed. It's 400 nits on both, and it worked really well. The 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports that it has gives you a lot of functionality. The improved multi-core performance and the improved Xe graphics definitely help out in that performance department. I like the bigger battery, the 75-watt battery versus the smaller 60-watt-hour from the last gen, so that's been pretty good. Outstanding rotating soundbar gives you that excellent audio, full-size pen this time around, and a sleeve included, which has a place to store the pen. Now, the things I'm not crazy about is the fact that the RAM and the Wi-Fi card are not upgradable because they're soldered into the motherboard. The keyboard is a bit on the shallow side, but not a deal breaker by any stretch. I thought it was a really good keyboard. And there's no SD card reader of any sort, no micro SD card reader for that matter. And there's no place to store the pen, neither inside the device with a silo or with a magnetic connection. But they do give you that sleeve with the place to store the pen. So, of course, you're not left without a solution. But there's a lot to love here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to give this a score of 92%, making the Yoga 9i 14 Gen 7 here for 2022 definitely worth your money. So what do you think about this bad boy? Really liking it. It's my editor's choice for the 2-in-1 convertible category here for 2022. I know we have others coming in, but it is a little bit early, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew from AMD Tech. See ya.